Welcome back, Algebra 1 students. We are on lesson 37. We're going to talk about inequalities and then how to graph those inequalities once we learn what they mean in regards to a number line. So we're going to get to play around with graphing on a number line. That's going to be really fun. So we understand when numbers are equal. So 4 equals 4. We get that. We've gotten that since elementary, right? We know 4 is equal to 4. What about if somebody writes a statement that says 4 is equal to 5? That's not true. 4 is not equal to 5. But we can represent that a different way. We can say that 4 is less than 5, and we can write that. We can make it a true statement by using a symbol like this. These symbols are called inequality symbols. And one of the things to remember about inequality symbols is that the smaller side points to the smaller number, and the bigger side of the V, the open side, is towards the larger number. So this would be, this number is less than this number. This number is less than this number. This symbol says that this number is greater than this number. So it's whichever way the opening is pointed. It's always pointed at the bigger number, and then we read it based on which end is first. Okay, so pointy side is less than, open side is greater than. One of the other things that we can do with inequalities is we can show that numbers have a range of values. So I could say that some number x that I don't know is less than or equal to the number 3. So that means that x could be equal, it could be 3, but it could also be every number that's less than 3. So it could be 2, 1, 0, -1, -14, -237. If it's less than 3, it would make that statement true. Okay, so as you can see, I've added a little line underneath our less than statement. That means less than or equal to. That's what that means. And if I do it to the greater than sign, it means greater than or equal to. Now, the opposite of those are each other, but then you could also negate that by saying it's not less than or equal to, or it's not greater than or equal to. And we'll get to those later, and we'll spend some more time on those as we go forward. Right now, just know those are a thing we're going to talk about in the future. Really worry more about less than or equal to or greater than or equal to. And of course, you have equal to and not equal to that we already know about. So let's jump in to talking about how that applies to the number line. Sometimes we need to solve for a range of numbers. There's a range of numbers that would fit a solution set. We know that the number line kind of, it doesn't really start at 0 so much as everything centers around 0, right? We have to have a 0 to really get the big picture here. So let's do, some little dashes here. Let's get us some numbers going on our number line. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 9 and 10. And then on the other side, we know it's negative and it goes the opposite direction. It's like a mirror image to the positive side, right? And the reason for that has to do with absolute value, because as we count spaces away from 0, we have to count the absolute number of spaces. So 1 space, 2 space, 3 space, 4 space, 5 space, 6 space. But it's going in the opposite direction, so that's how it becomes negative. All right, so there's our little number line that we want to play with. When we graph something on a number line, and we use the symbols less than, we can't really include the number that we're talking about, right? So let me change colors here. Let me erase this. Let me change. If I were to say that x was less than 2, can't really include 2 in that range of solutions. And that's what we call that. Every number that could stand in for x would be your solution set. But it's not equal to, it's just less than 2. So how do we show that? Well, here's how we show that it's less than 2. We circle the number 2, and we leave that circle open because it doesn't include 2, but it includes everything up to the 2. And if you pay attention, if you notice, the direction that you move in when you're plotting x in this regard, the arrow, it's the same direction as your less than sign. You could even mark over the top of it, and it should be the same. So that if that helps you to remember the direction to go, then use that little tip. But we don't include it because it's not equal to it. However, let's say we had an expression that said x is greater than or equal to 4. How do we show that it includes 4, that it is also equal to 4? Well, again, we circle the 4, but then we fill it in. We say, yes, it starts at 4. Excuse me, sorry. It starts at 4, it includes 4, and then it is everything that is bigger than 4. And if you notice the little arrow on this side, it's going in the same direction as your greater than symbol. So that kind of helps a little bit when you need to do that. The symbols work the same way as the arrows. That's something that helped me a lot when I was in Algebra 1. I would remember the arrow was the same direction until I fully understood the concept and didn't need it anymore. But while you're trying to figure out which way to go, that's a good point of reference. Look at the direction of the arrow and move in that direction. Because typically x is going to be on the left, and as long as x is on the left, then that is true. Then this works, okay? So that's how you tell a difference. If something is greater than or equal to, it's going to be a filled in circle. Let me see if I can write that. Filled in circle. This is a note you need to take. And then if it's less than, it's going to be an open circle. Right? If there's no equal to sign under it, it's going to be an open circle. So that's a note you need to have written down. That less than is an open circle and greater than is an open circle if there's no equal sign underneath it. The equal sign means to fill in the circle. All right, let's move on. And let's try to graph a couple of these problems. I think we only have 3. So I'm going to move to this graph paper just because it makes it easier. So let's draw a number line here. I'm going to switch back to green. And I'm going to draw me a line right here. And I'm going to do this and this. And I'm going to find about the middle. Well, it looks like about the middle right here. It's a lot easier to do on graph paper because you don't have to guess at your distribution of your tick marks. You just use the graph behind you behind the line, and you are good. Now, if you don't have graph paper, what you can do is you can take your notebook paper, take 2 sheets, and put a sheet behind the first sheet, but turn it sideways so that the lines are perpendicular to one another, and you can barely see the lines from the second sheet of paper behind the first sheet, but it allows you to make an even tick mark. You can mark that out pretty evenly by using the sheet behind the first one turned sideways. And if you do that, you'll see what I'm talking about. So we have to graph, and I'm going to use different colors for each one of these so that it stands out. Let's put some numbers on here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. -1, -2, -3, -4, -5, -6, -7. That's just to start. If we need more later, we'll add them. So let's use red for the first one. For 37.2, we need to graph x is less than or equal to 2. So we are going to, first, before I get started, let me do this. I'm gonna copy this, and I'm going to paste it for each one of our lines so that I don't have to draw this and you don't have to wait on me each time. That's going to make it a lot easier, especially since we only have 3 problems. There we go. So that looks good. All right, is it 37.2? Oh no, it's the wrong one. We need to do 37.1. And 37.1 says to graph x is greater than 2. So we're going to circle 2. Remember, there's no equal sign, so it doesn't include 2. It's everything that's more than 2. So we're just going to circle the 2 and go to the right. And notice this sign matches this sign. And this is how we would graph that. Easy peasy. 37.2 says to graph x is less than or equal to 2. So we're going to circle the 2, but because it has an equal sign, we're going to fill it in. And notice the direction of this matches the direction of this. So we go this way because it's less than or equal to 2. So we want the numbers to be smaller, 2 and smaller. All right, 37.3. We want to graph. Oh, we don't want to graph. What we want to do is we want to look at the graph and tell them what it is. So they have this circled, and they have this going, the line going this way. So let's decide what that is. So to me, x is going to be less than, we have a -3 here, -3. And it's just less than because it has an open circle. It doesn't include the 3. It's just the -3, everything less than -3. And again, this sign matches up with this sign when x is on the left. So x is equal, or x is less than -3 is our answer. All right, that is all we have for inequalities right now. You're going to have some pretty easy practice problems from this lesson. So I will see you in lesson 38.